At 6 a.m., my door began to shake. My daughter-in-law was screaming my name, hysterical, as if the house were hers. I had changed all the locks the night before. Minutes later, my son arrived with a sledgehammer in his hand. I'm getting in one way or another. But as he raised his arm to strike, a voice behind me said simply, "Leave it. I'll handle this." The door opened, and what they saw on the other side made them turn pale. The blows echoed like war drums. Each one shook not only the wood of the entrance, but something deep within my chest. Tiffany, my daughter-in-law, screamed with that shrill voice I already knew too well. "Eleanor, open this damn door. Who do you think you are? This house is as much mine as it is yours." I stood on the other side, barefoot on the cold tiles of my living room, my heart beating so hard I could feel the pulse in my temples. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from something worse. 3 months of contained rage. Rage that had fermented in silence until it became something cold and calculated. I looked at the wall clock, the one my late Ernest bought in Santa Fe 30 years ago. 6:07 a.m. Mr. Harrison, the attorney, would arrive in 20 minutes. I just had to hold out. "Mom!" Now it was the voice of Robert, my son, my only son. "I know you're in there. Open up already." I heard a different sound, metallic, heavy. And then his voice, but with a tone I had never heard from him. "I'm getting in one way or another, with or without a door." I peeked through the peephole. Robert was holding a sledgehammer, the kind used in construction. His eyes were bloodshot. Tiffany, beside him, had her arms crossed and a twisted smile on her lips, a smile of anticipated victory. I felt my legs go weak. Was this how it all ended? My son, the baby I nursed, the one I cared for when he had pneumonia at 7, the one I helped pay for his first motorcycle. Was he going to knock down my door? Then a deep voice resonated behind me. "Leave it. I'll handle this." I turned my head. Mr. Harrison was standing in the hallway in his impeccable gray suit and a leather briefcase in his hand. He had arrived early, much earlier than agreed. "How did you get in?" I whispered. "Through the back door, Mrs. Eleanor, as you instructed me last night." He looked at me with those calm eyes that conveyed authority. "Open it for them. It's time for them to see what they have lost." My hand went to the deadbolt. I slid it back slowly. I turned the knob. The door opened. And the moment Robert and Tiffany saw Mr. Harrison standing there with his imposing presence and his steel-like gaze, the sledgehammer fell to the floor with a dull thud. They both turned pale, literally, as if they had seen a ghost. Because they knew exactly who this man was, and they knew their plan had just crumbled. But before I tell you how I came to change the locks on my own house to protect myself from my son, I need you to understand something. I wasn't always this woman. The Eleanor who opened that door with steady hands didn't exist 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I was someone else, a fool, naive, a mother who believed that love could conquer all. If you want to know how a 68-year-old woman went from being the perfect victim to closing the door in her own family's face, subscribe to this channel, because what's coming will change how you see a mother's love forever. Mr. Harrison did not smile. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to change the entire energy of the doorway. He took a step forward, standing right beside me, and spoke with that voice that had terrified 100 scammers in court. "Good morning, Robert." "Tiffany." He paused deliberately. "I regret to inform you that you no longer have the legal authority to enter this property without the express consent of the owner." Tiffany was the first to react. Her face went from pale to deep red in seconds. "Who the hell do you think you are? We live here. We have rights." The attorney opened his briefcase with exasperating calm. He took out a thick manila folder and extracted several documents. The sound of the paper was the only thing audible besides my son's agitated breathing. I am Arthur Harrison, Public Notary number 47 of Los Angeles. And these," he held up the papers, "are documents certifying that, as of 11:45 p.m. yesterday, March 15th, this property located at 328 Jacaranda Drive, Westwood, was transferred into an irrevocable trust in the name of Mrs. Eleanor Letitia Sandoval, widow of Cortez." Robert finally found his voice. It sounded broken, desperate. "Mom, what did you do?" I looked at him, really looked at him. And in that moment, I saw the scared little boy who used to hide behind me when his father scolded him. But I also saw the man who, 2 weeks ago, had told his wife that I had lived long enough. "What I should have done 3 months ago, Robert, protect myself." Tiffany let out a hysterical laugh. "Protect yourself, but we take care of you. We keep you company. Without us, you'd be alone, dying in this huge house." "Mr." Harrison interrupted her without raising his voice. "Ma'am, I suggest you watch your words. Everything you say at this moment can and will be used against you if Mrs. Eleanor decides to proceed legally." "Legally?" Robert stepped forward. "But I invested in this house. I paid for the roof repair. I put money down for the new water cistern. This house is as much mine as it is hers." There it was, the lie he had been feeding for 3 months. The lie he had repeated to me so many times, I almost believed it. The attorney smiled for the first time. It was a small, almost imperceptible smile, but it was there. "Oh, really? Interesting. Because according to the bank records Mrs. Eleanor provided me, the roof was repaired last August with $8,700 that she withdrew from her personal account. The cistern was installed in October, also paid for by her, for the amount of $5,200. Shall I continue?" Robert opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He looked like a fish out of water. Tiffany switched tactics. She brought her hands to her chest, and tears began to roll down her cheeks. Tears she had perfected over these 3 months. "Mother-in-law, Eleanor, I don't understand. We're family. How can you do this to us, after everything we've shared?" Something inside me broke. But it wasn't my heart. It was the last chain of guilt that tied me to this farce. "Family?" My voice came out stronger than I expected. "You talk to me about family, Tiffany? The same family that sold my late husband's porcelain china for $800? The same family that swindled $12,000 out of me, lying about an illness, to pay for a nose job?" Her face fell. The tears were still falling, but now they were tears of panic. I was sick. The doctors at the Monteverde Aesthetic Surgery Clinic, right?" The attorney pulled out another document. "I have the receipt right here. Aesthetic rhinoplasty, $11,500. Paid on January 18th, 3 days after you received the money from Mrs. Eleanor." Robert turned to his wife with an expression I had never seen on him. Confusion, anger, fear. "Is that true?" Tiffany took a step back. You knew that. Robert, don't make me look bad." "I knew?" My son's voice went up 3 octaves. "I knew you stole from my mother?" There was the crack, the first fissure in their perfect alliance. Mr. Harrison seized the moment. "You have 48 hours to completely vacate this property. You may take your personal belongings, clothing, electronics you can prove are yours, and nothing more. Any item belonging to Mrs. Eleanor that is removed without authorization will be considered theft, and legal action will be taken." "You can't kick us out," Tiffany screamed. "We have children, Valerie and James. Where are we going to live?" For the first time in the conversation, the attorney seemed genuinely annoyed. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before planning to put the children's grandmother in a cheap nursing home to sell her house and buy yourselves a condo in Silver Lake." The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Robert looked at me. His eyes were glassy. How do you know that?" I put my hand in my robe pocket and took out a small digital recorder, the one my neighbor Connie had taught me to use. I placed it in the palm of my hand and pressed play. Tiffany's voice came out clear, crisp, unmistakable. "It's almost done, honey. In a few more months, we'll convince her to sign the house over to you. She's old, lonely, she needs us. Then we can put her in a cheap nursing home and sell this property. It's worth at least $400,000. Enough for that condo in Silver Lake we want." And then Robert's voice. "You're right. My mom has lived long enough. We deserve this house." I stopped the recording. Robert fell to his knees on the doorstep. Literally, his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. "Mom, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I said with a calm that surprised even me. "You said it, you thought it, and you were going to do it." Tiffany regained her composure with impressive speed. She pointed her finger at Robert. "This was his idea. I just went along with his plan. He convinced me of everything." And right there, before my eyes, I watched them destroy each other. Robert shot up and faced her. "What? It was you who said my mother was a burden. It was you who wanted the luxury condo." The attorney closed his briefcase with a dry snap. "Folks, your marital problems are not my concern. What is my concern is informing you that you have until Wednesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. to vacate this property. If you do not do so voluntarily, we will proceed with a legal eviction. Have a nice day." He turned and walked into the house. I followed him. And before closing the door, I looked one last time at Robert. My son, my only son, was crying silently on the step of the house where I raised him. And I felt nothing. Well, no, that's a lie. I felt relief. I closed the door and slid the bolt. Mr. Harrison looked at me from the hallway. "Are you all right, Mrs. Eleanor?" I nodded slowly. Then I sat on the living room sofa, the one where Ernest used to read me poems on Sunday afternoons, and for the first time in 3 months, I took a deep breath. But you must be wondering, how did it all get to this point? How does a mother end up recording her own son planning her banishment? To understand that, I have to take you back 3 months, to the day I opened the door of my house and let in not only my son and his family, but my own destruction. It was a Tuesday, December 12th. I remember because I had gone to the LA flower market early that day to buy fresh flowers for the Virgin of Guadalupe statue. It was just after 11 in the morning when my phone rang. "Mom?" Robert's voice sounded strange, subdued. "Honey, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "I need to talk to you. Can I come to your house? It's urgent." My heart skipped a beat. When a child says something is urgent, a mother imagines the worst. Accidents, illness, death. "Of course, sweetheart, come whenever you want. Do you want me to make some lunch?" "No, Mom, I need to talk." He hung up before I could say anything else. He arrived at 2 in the afternoon. He wasn't alone. Tiffany was with him, and behind them, Valerie and James were carrying large backpacks that looked stuffed to bursting. "Hi, Eleanor," Tiffany said, with that smile I then believed was genuine. "Sorry for coming without warning." "No, don't worry, come in. Do you want some water? Coffee?" The children ran straight to the backyard. Valerie was 12 and James was 9. Good kids, always polite, although I'd been seeing them less and less lately. Robert sat on the sofa and ran his hands over his face. That gesture he'd made since he was a boy when he was nervous. "Mom, we lost the apartment." The words landed like stones in a well. "What do you mean you lost it?" Tiffany sat next to him and took his hand. At that moment I thought, how wonderful that they have each other in hard times. How stupid I was. "We had problems with the bank," Robert explained, not looking me in the eye. "We couldn't make the mortgage payments for 3 months and, well, they foreclosed. They gave us 2 weeks to get out." I put my hand to my chest. My son, my Robert, homeless. But why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have helped. We didn't want to worry you, Tiffany chimed in with a sweet voice. You've already done so much for us. We didn't want to be a burden. You are never a burden. You are my family. Robert finally looked at me. His eyes were red. Mom, I need to ask you a huge favor. The biggest favor I've ever asked in my life. Anything, son, whatever you need. Can we stay here? Just temporarily, while we find another place. Maybe 2 or 3 months max. My house had 4 bedrooms. Since Ernest died 5 years ago, I lived alone in this enormous space that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. The idea of having my family close, of hearing children's laughter, of cooking for more than one person. Of course you can stay, as long as you need. Tiffany jumped up and hugged me. She smelled of expensive perfume, too expensive for someone who had just lost their home. Thank you, Eleanor. You don't know how much this means to us. The children shouted with joy when they were told they'd be staying with Grandma. James ran to me and hugged my waist. Can I stay in the room with the stars on the ceiling, Grandma? It was the room Ernest had decorated for Robert when he was little. He had put up glow-in-the-dark decals. My grandson remembered them from the few times they had come to visit. Of course, my angel. That same afternoon, they started bringing their things. Boxes, lots of boxes, more than would fit in an SUV. Robert had rented a small U-Haul. Is all this necessary? I asked, seeing the number of objects. Well, we don't know how long we'll be, Mom. We'd rather have everything on hand. It made sense, or so I thought. The first week was pleasant. I cooked for everyone. The kids did their homework at the dining table. Robert left early to look for work. Tiffany stayed home, saying it was to look after the kids, even though they were old enough not to need a babysitter. But there were small things I ignored at the time. Tiffany moved the living room furniture around to create more space. Ernest's armchair, the one where he spent hours reading, ended up shoved in the garage. It's just so worn out, Eleanor. It looks ugly in here. She replaced the bathroom towels with new ones she bought. Mine, hand-embroidered by my mother, she packed away in a box. These are more modern. You need to get with the times. She started cooking too, but not food I liked. Different food. With spices I had never used. And when I tried to cook something traditional, she would sigh. Oh, Eleanor, so much grease isn't good for anyone. One day, 2 weeks after they arrived, I came down for breakfast and found that the dining room curtains had disappeared. Where are the curtains? I asked. Tiffany was making a smoothie in the blender. She didn't even turn around. I took them down. They were blocking the natural light. Your house was so dark, Eleanor. It needed some brightness. I had sewn those curtains myself. It took me 3 weeks to finish them. They had a design of embroidered birds that my mother taught me to make. But I liked those curtains. They were very old. It was time for a change. Robert walked in just then and gave Tiffany a kiss on the cheek. Morning, Mom. Sleep well? Honey, did you see Tiffany took down the dining room curtains? Oh yeah, it looks better, doesn't it? Much brighter. But I made them. It took me a long time. Robert poured himself some coffee with a distracted smile. Mom, don't be so sentimental. They're just curtains. Tiffany has good taste. You should trust her more. I fell silent, standing in the kitchen of my house, feeling like I was somehow the one who was out of place. You're right, I said finally. Just curtains. Tiffany smiled at me. That smile I still believed was kind. That's what I like to see, being flexible. Change is good. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought of Ernest. How he always used to say, Eleanor, you're too good. Someday, someone is going to take advantage of that. But this was different, right? This was my family, my son, my grandchildren. They couldn't be taking advantage of me. Could they? What I didn't know at that moment was that the curtains were just the beginning. Tiffany hadn't come to my house to stay temporarily. She had come to make it hers. And every day that passed, I disappeared a little more, until there was almost nothing left of me. The real change began in the 3rd week. Tiffany walked into my bedroom without knocking. I was folding laundry when I saw her standing in the doorway with that expression I was beginning to know too well, determination disguised as concern. "Eleanor, we need to talk about this room. My room. What's wrong with it?" She walked in and circled it, touching things, the antique mahogany dresser, the gold-framed mirror, my wedding photograph on the wall. "It's just so full, so cluttered. It's not healthy for you to have so much disorder." I looked around. My room wasn't cluttered. Everything was in its place. Every object had a story. "It's not cluttered, Tiffany. It's lived in." That's exactly the problem. She sat on my bed as if it were hers. "You live in the past, surrounded by things from your husband who is gone. It's not healthy. You need to let go, move on." Her words stung like a slap. Ernest was my husband for 42 years. I'm not going to let go of his memories. I'm not asking you to forget him, just to put them away, to make space for the present, for us. The next day, while I was out at church, Tiffany organized the living room. When I returned, the photographs of Ernest that were on the mantelpiece had disappeared. In their place were scented candles and an artificial plant. "Where are the pictures of Ernest?" "I put them in a box in your closet. That way they're protected from the dust." "I don't want them protected from the dust. I want to see them." Tiffany sighed with that exaggerated patience one uses with small children. "Eleanor, you can't turn your house into a shrine. Your husband is resting in peace. You need to live." I went to my closet. I found the box. But not all the photos were there. My favorite one was missing. Ernest and me in Miami, on our honeymoon. He was carrying me in his arms as the waves wet our feet. "Tiffany, a photo is missing." "Which one?" "The one from Miami, the one in the silver frame." "Oh, that one. It fell, and the glass broke. I threw it out." "You threw it out?" "The frame was all rusted anyway. It was useless." I felt something break inside my chest. Not the frame. Me. That night, Robert came home late. I waited up for him. "Son, I need to talk to you." "Mom, I'm tired. Can it be tomorrow?" "No, it has to be now." He dropped onto the sofa with an annoyed sigh. "Fine. What's wrong?" "Tiffany is throwing away your father's things. She's changed the whole house. And I feel like a stranger in my own home." Robert didn't even look me in the eye. He just stared at his phone. "Mom, Tiffany is just trying to help. This house was really neglected, very old-fashioned. It's my house, Robert. And I liked it the way it was." "Well, maybe you needed someone to show you there are other ways to live." He finally looked up. "You know what your problem is, Mom? You cling too much to the past. Dad died 5 years ago. It's time for you to move on." His words pierced me like knives. Does moving on mean forgetting your father? It means stop living in a museum. He stood up. "Tiffany is trying to modernize things. You should be grateful that someone cares about you." And he went to bed. I sat in the darkness of the living room with Tiffany's scented candles perfuming the air with a smell that wasn't my home. And for the first time since they moved in, I cried. But the worst hadn't arrived yet. A week later, Tiffany came into the kitchen with a huge smile. "Eleanor, I have wonderful news. I hired a deep cleaning service. They're coming tomorrow to make everything spotless." "A cleaning service? But I clean the house." "Oh, Eleanor, with all due respect. You clean the old-fashioned way. We need a professional disinfection. Don't worry, I'll pay." The next day, 3 people in uniforms arrived with industrial cleaning products. Tiffany directed them like a general at war. That furniture in the garage, take it to the dump. Those boxes over there, too. And that old display cabinet, please, take it out. Wait! I ran toward them. That cabinet was my grandmother's. You can't throw it away. It's full of termites, Eleanor. It's a nest for bugs. I don't care. It's my family's. Tiffany made a gesture of exasperation. Fine, we'll leave it. But at least let them take all that old stuff out of the garage. I didn't pay attention to what exactly they took from the garage. A fatal error. 2 days later, I looked for Ernest's vinyl record collection. The collection of oldies and soul music he had collected for 30 years. The ones we played on Sunday afternoons while he held me in the kitchen and sang in my ear. They were gone. Tiffany, where are Ernest's records? The records? Oh, Eleanor, the cleaning people threw those out. They were all scratched. Some of them couldn't even be played. They threw them out? Yes, but don't worry. Now there's Spotify. You can listen to any song you want. I sat on the garage floor, right there, where Ernest's armchair once sat, where his records once were, his memories, our life, and I cried like I hadn't cried since his funeral. Tiffany appeared in the doorway. Oh, Eleanor, don't be so dramatic. It's just stuff, just objects. But they weren't just objects. They were pieces of my life, pieces of Ernest, pieces of me, and she was throwing them in the trash, one by one. That night I told Connie, my lifelong neighbor. She was 72 and a widow like me. We sat in her garden with strong coffee. Eleanor, that woman is erasing you, she said with her characteristic bluntness. She's erasing your history to write her own. But she's my daughter-in-law, my son's wife. And that makes her more dangerous, because she comes with the family label, and you, out of respect for your son, put up with things you wouldn't take from a stranger. Her words echoed in my head all night. The next day, Tiffany painted the living room, without warning, without asking. When I got back from the market, the walls that had been peach-colored for 20 years were now dark gray. Do you like it? She asked with pride. It's the trendy color. It looks very elegant. I chose that peach color with Ernest. We spent a whole weekend painting it together. Well, now it's gray. Peach was outdated. You have to get with the times. Robert came home and applauded. Wow, it looks incredible, honey. Very modern. Your mother isn't happy, Tiffany said in a victim's voice. Robert looked at me with disappointment. Mom, really? Tiffany is making an effort to improve the house, and you just complain. I didn't ask for it to be improved. I liked it how it was. Well, nobody else liked it. It was depressing. That word. Depressing. As if my life with Ernest had been depressing. I went to my room without eating dinner, and that night, lying in the dark, I realized something terrible. I didn't recognize my own house anymore. The walls, the furniture, the smells, everything was different, everything was Tiffany's, and I was becoming a tenant in my own home. But if you thought losing my memories was the worst thing Tiffany did to me, you're wrong. Because what came next wasn't just stealing objects, it was stealing something much more valuable. And when I found out, I understood that my daughter-in-law wasn't just manipulative. She was a thief. And my son, my own son, knew it. It was a Thursday afternoon, January 18th. I remember the exact date because it would have been Ernest's 43rd birthday if he were still alive. I always put fresh flowers on his photograph that day. But his photograph was no longer in the living room. It was packed in a box in my closet. I went down to the kitchen to make myself some tea. I needed something to calm me. I had been sleeping poorly the last few days. Nightmares where my house became smaller and smaller, and I couldn't find the way out. Tiffany was in the dining room with her laptop open. She was talking on the phone with someone. Yes, I still have it. It's authentic china. Antique. It has 24-karat gold details. A pause. No, it's not stolen. It's from my family. Another pause. $800? That's too little. It's worth at least $1,500. I moved closer. On her laptop screen were photographs of my china, the porcelain china that Ernest gave me for our 30th anniversary. He had bought it on a business trip to San Francisco. He had saved for months to pay for it. Each plate had hand-painted cherry blossoms. Each cup had a gold rim. The complete set, 12 soup bowls, 12 flat plates, 12 cups with their saucers. We never used it. It was too valuable. I kept it in the dining room cabinet just to admire it. "Tiffany," my voice came out trembling, "what are you doing?" She looked up with a calm smile. Too calm. "Oh, Eleanor, I'm selling the china." "Selling? My china?" "Well, technically it's in your house, but nobody uses it. It's just collecting dust, and we urgently need the money." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. "Ernest gave me that china. It is not for sale." "Eleanor, be reasonable. They're just plates, and we are in a very difficult situation. Robert hasn't found a job. The kids need new school supplies. The rent on the storage unit where we keep our things is due next week, and we have no way to pay it. And for that, you're going to sell my things? They aren't just your things. We're family. What's yours is ours. That's how families work." My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel the pulse in my ears. "Cancel that sale, now." Tiffany closed the laptop with a dramatic sigh. "You know what your problem is, Eleanor. You're selfish. We take you in, we care for you, we keep you company so you're not alone in this huge house, and you're not capable of helping us when we need it most. What are you going to do with those plates? Stare at them until you die?" Her words hit me like punches. It's not selfishness. It's my history. It's what Ernest left me. Ernest is dead, Eleanor. The dead don't need china. The living, however, do need money to eat. Just then, Robert walked in. He was carrying a bag of pastries. "What's wrong? I can hear yelling from outside." "Your mother doesn't want us to sell the china," Tiffany said, her voice like a scolded child's. "She'd rather her grandchildren starve than part with some old plates." Robert looked at me with that expression that broke my heart. Disappointment, exhaustion, annoyance. "Mom, seriously? You're going to make a drama over some plates?" "They're not just plates. They were your father's anniversary gift to me. And I'm sure Dad would prefer his grandchildren to eat rather than have plates stored away that nobody uses." He walked over to Tiffany and put a hand on her shoulder. "Sell the china, honey. My mom will understand." "I will not understand. You have no right." Tiffany stood up with tears in her eyes. Perfect tears that rolled right down the center of her cheeks without ruining her makeup. "You know what, Eleanor? You're right. We have no right to anything. We're just a burden to you." "Robert, you heard your mother. We're not welcome here. We'd better pack our things and go live on the street. Who cares if the kids sleep in a shelter? At least your precious china will be safe." "Honey, don't say that." Robert hugged her and looked at me harshly. "Mom, do you see what you're doing? Do you see how you're hurting her?" I couldn't believe it. Somehow I was the bad guy in the story. "Robert, that china means so much to me." "Well, to us, it means being able to eat," my son shouted. He had never shouted at me like that. "But don't worry, Mom. We won't touch your precious china. We won't touch anything. In fact, we'd better leave so you can live alone with your memories and your things without anyone bothering you." He started walking toward the stairs. Tiffany followed him, sobbing. The children appeared in the hallway, their faces frightened. "What's wrong, Dad?" James asked in a small voice. "Nothing, son. We're going to pack. Your grandmother wants us to leave." "I didn't say that," I yelled. But no one heard me. 2 hours passed. 2 hours in which I heard movement upstairs, boxes being dragged, doors closing, Valerie's soft crying. And me, sitting in the kitchen, my shaky hands on the table, wondering how I had gotten to this point. Finally, Robert came down. Alone. Tiffany is upstairs packing. The kids are confused and scared. I hope you're proud of yourself. Robert, I just asked you not to sell your father's china. And what did you want us to do, Mom? Beg on the street? Stop eating? He sat across from me, his eyes glassy. I thought you were different. I thought you'd understand. But it turns out you're just like all the other selfish old women who only think about their things and not their family. Those words. Selfish old women. My own son. Fine, I whispered. Sell the china. What? Sell it. If you need to. Sell it. Robert blinked, surprised. Then his face softened, and he took my hands. Mom, I knew you'd understand. Thank you. Thank you. I promise that when I get a job, I'll buy you another set just like it. He ran up the stairs shouting, Honey, my mom said yes, we can stay. That night, lying in my bed, I looked at the empty display cabinet in the dining room. Tiffany had packed up the china immediately, as if she were afraid I'd change my mind. That china was worth $4,500. I know because when Ernest died, an appraiser came to make an inventory for the will. $4,500 in memories, in love, in years of marriage, and my daughter-in-law was going to sell it for $800. The next day, Tiffany left early. She returned 6 hours later with bags of new clothes, designer pants, blouses, expensive shoes. Did you manage to sell the china? I asked. Yes, Eleanor. Thank goodness. With that, we were able to pay the rent on the storage unit. But the bags in her hands told another story. Tiffany, those bags? Oh, this. I just found some incredible sales. A 2-for-1. I couldn't resist. You bought clothes with the money from my china? Not all the clothes. I also paid the rent. And I bought school supplies for the kids. And, well, I deserved a little treat, don't you think? I've been so stressed. She went to her room whistling a song, and I just stood there in my dark gray living room, with my bare walls, with my empty cabinet, finally understanding the truth. They hadn't come to stay temporarily. They had come to take everything. But if they thought stealing my memories and belongings was enough to destroy me, they were wrong. Because Tiffany had a much more elaborate plan. A plan that involved lies, fake hospitals, and $12,000 that I was going to give her voluntarily. Because when a snake identifies its prey, it doesn't stop until it has devoured it completely. Story continues into part 5. 2 weeks after the China incident, Tiffany started acting strangely, stranger than usual. She would get up late. She'd walk around the house with a hand on her forehead, sighing deeply. She'd leave her food half-eaten, saying she had no appetite. And every time someone asked what was wrong, she would respond with a dramatic, "Nothing, nothing, I'll be fine." But she said it in that way that screams, "Please, ask me more." It was Valerie who finally fell into the trap. "Mom, are you sick?" Tiffany brought her hand to her chest, and her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to worry you, honey. I have some weird symptoms, but it's nothing serious. Probably." Robert got up from the table, alarmed. "What kind of symptoms?" "Dizziness, nausea, and, well, I've been bleeding a little." She lowered her voice as if it were a terrible secret. "From places I shouldn't be." My heart leaped. Despite everything, I didn't wish harm on anyone, much less a serious illness. "Tiffany, you have to go to the doctor," I said, "immediately." "I can't, Eleanor. We don't have health insurance now that Robert lost his job. And a private consultation with a specialist costs a fortune." "It doesn't matter what it costs. Your health is more important." Tiffany looked at me with those big, bright eyes, as if I were her savior. "Really, Eleanor? You would help us with that?" "Of course. We'll make an appointment tomorrow." That night, I heard Robert and Tiffany talking in their room. Their voices carried through the crack in the door. "I told you it would work," Tiffany whispered. "Your mother is a total softie." You just need to scare her a little." I couldn't hear Robert's reply, but I also didn't want to believe it. Surely I had misunderstood. The next day, Tiffany showed me the name of a clinic. Santa Lucia Specialized Medical Center. It sounded prestigious, expensive. "Dr. Melgar is the best oncologist in the city," she said with a shaky voice, "but his consultations cost $350. "It's fine, I'll pay." I went with her to the appointment, but when we arrived, she asked me to wait outside. "Eleanor, they're very private exams. I'm embarrassed to have you there. Do you mind waiting in the reception area?" "Of course not, dear. Go on, don't worry." I waited for 2 hours. 2 hours of looking at old magazines in an impeccable waiting room with marble floors and expensive ornamental plants. When she came out, her eyes were red from crying. "What did the doctor say?" I asked, jumping up. "I need tests, lots of tests, an MRI, a CT scan, specialized blood analysis." Her voice broke. "And a biopsy. My God, is it—" "They don't know yet. That's why they need the tests. But the doctor said the faster we do them, the better." She took my hands. "Eleanor, I know it's a lot to ask. I know we've already abused your generosity. But I'm scared. So scared." "How much do the tests cost?" $12,000. She said the figure as if it were a death sentence. "It's so much money. Too much. We have no way to pay for it. Maybe I can wait a few months until Robert gets a job." "You can't wait if it's something serious. We're going to the bank right now." Tiffany hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you. You don't know what this means to me. To my children." We went to the bank that same afternoon. I sold 2 small plots of land I owned near Palm Springs. Land that Ernest had bought, thinking we'd build a weekend house there someday. Land that was worth more than $12,000, but I sold it quickly, without haggling, because a human life is worth more than any property. I handed the money to Tiffany in a manila envelope. "God bless you, dear, and I hope everything comes out well." She cried in my arms, tears I then believed were genuine. For the next 2 weeks, Tiffany would leave early to get her tests done. She would come back tired, pale, with stories of needles and machines and worried doctors. "Do you have the results yet?" I would ask every day. "Not yet. They're very complex tests. It takes time." The children were scared. James asked me one night, "Grandma, is my mom going to die?" "No, my angel, your mom is going to be fine. The doctors are going to cure her." But inside, I was scared too. And then that Tuesday came, February 5th, Farmers Market Day in the neighborhood. I went to buy vegetables. Mrs. Remedios' stall was next to Don Chava's, the one who sells chicken. And there, in the middle of a conversation about the price of tomatoes, Mrs. Remedios said to me, "Hey, Eleanor, I saw your daughter-in-law the other day at the Grove. She looked great, very beautiful. When did you see her?" "Last Friday. She was coming out of one of those fancy clinics, an aesthetic surgery one." The world stopped. Aesthetic surgery? Yes, the Monteverde Clinic. My niece works there as a receptionist. She told me your daughter-in-law got a nose job. She looks very pretty, by the way. I arrived home, the shopping bags trembling in my hands. Tiffany was in the living room watching TV, eating popcorn, with her new nose. It was subtle, but now that I knew, I could see it. The tip a little more upturned, the bridge thinner. "Tiffany, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Eleanor. What's up?" I ran into Mrs. Remedios at the market. Her face didn't change, not a muscle. "Oh, that's nice. How is she?" "She's fine. She told me she saw you coming out of the Monteverde Clinic." Silence. "The aesthetic surgery clinic," I continued, my voice shaking. "Last Friday, the day you were supposedly getting your MRI." Tiffany set the popcorn bowl on the table, slowly, carefully. Eleanor, I can explain. Explain what? My voice came out louder than I intended. Explain that you lied to me? That you took $12,000 from me for a fake illness? I didn't fake anything. I really did feel sick. You got a nose job with my money. She stood up from the sofa with that speed that frightened me. And what if I did? What's the problem? I deserve to feel good about myself too. Not everything is about you and your needs. It was my money, money I gave because I thought you were sick. I was sick, sick with insecurity, sick with low self-esteem. She touched her nose with pride. This surgery saved my life just as much as any cancer treatment would have. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the audacity. I want my money back. Tiffany let out a laugh, a cold laugh that chilled my blood. Your money? Eleanor, you gave it to me. It was a gift. There are no refunds. It wasn't a gift. It was for your medical treatment. And I used it for a medical treatment. Reconstructive surgery. It's the same thing. Just then, Robert walked in. He was wearing a restaurant uniform. He had finally found a job as a waiter. What's going on in here? I can hear yelling from the street. Your mother is harassing me, Tiffany said with her perfect victim voice. She's yelling at me because I used the money she gave me on a surgery I needed. A surgery you needed? I turned to my son. Robert, she lied to me. She told me she had cancer. She took $12,000 from me to get a nose job. I expected my son to take my side, to be outraged, to confront her. But instead, he sighed with exhaustion. Mom, we already knew Tiffany was going to get her nose done. The floor disappeared from under me. What? It really bothered her. She'd been wanting to fix it for years. I told her to take advantage of the fact that you offered the money. I didn't offer money for cosmetic surgery. I offered money because I thought she was sick. Robert approached me and spoke as if I were a small child. Mom, does it really matter what the money was used for? At the end of the day, you helped your daughter-in-law feel better about herself. You should be proud. Proud? You lied to me. We didn't lie. We just didn't give you all the details. He shrugged. Besides, what were you going to do with that $12,000? Save it until you die. At least now it was used for something useful. Tiffany crossed her arms with a smug smile. I wouldn't make such a fuss if I were you. Unless you want us to leave, because if we keep arguing like this, it's going to be impossible to live under the same roof. It was a threat, disguised as concern, but a threat nonetheless. And the worst part is, it worked. Because the idea of being alone again, of returning to the silence of this empty house, terrified me more than losing money. Fine, I whispered. Forget it. That's what I like to hear, Mom. Robert patted my shoulder. Tomorrow, everything will be better. You'll see. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling every piece of myself crumbling away. My china, my memories, my money, my dignity. What was left? And more importantly, how far would this go before I disappeared completely? But what I didn't know was that Tiffany and Robert weren't going to settle for $12,000. Not with my belongings. Not with my house renovated to their taste. No, they wanted everything. And I was about to find out exactly how far they were willing to go to get it, because one night I went downstairs for a glass of water, and I heard a conversation that would change my life forever. It was February 22nd, 2:37 a.m. I know because I looked at the clock before getting up. My throat was dry. The kind of dryness that wakes you up and won't let you go back to sleep until you drink some water. I put on my robe and went down the stairs slowly. The wooden steps creak at night, and I didn't want to wake anyone. The house was dark except for the moonlight coming through the hallway window. I was halfway to the kitchen when I heard voices. They were coming from the backyard, whispering voices, Robert and Tiffany. Something in my gut told me not to turn on the light, not to make a sound. I stood paralyzed by the kitchen door that leads to the patio, hidden in the shadows. What if it doesn't work? It was Robert's voice. He sounded nervous. What if she refuses? She won't refuse. Tiffany's voice was cold, calculating, nothing like the sweet tone she used with me. It's almost done, honey. We just need a few more months. A few more months of what? Of softening her up, of making her feel like she needs us, that she's getting old, that she can't manage on her own anymore. I heard the sound of a cigarette being lit. Tiffany smoked in secret. She thought I didn't know. In about 3 months, tops, she continued, we convince her to sign the house over to you, for her own safety, you understand? We'll tell her that if something happens to her, if she falls, if she gets sick, it'll be a huge legal problem, that it's better to have everything in order. My heart started beating so hard I was afraid they would hear it. What if she suspects? Robert asked. She's not going to suspect. She's alone. She only has us. And besides, Tiffany let out a little laugh. We've already shown her who's in charge here. We threw out her things, changed her house, took her money, and she did nothing. Absolutely nothing. She's weak, Robert, and the weak always lose. I felt my legs tremble. I leaned against the wall so I wouldn't fall. And what happens after? My son's voice was hesitant. After she signs? After... Tiffany exhaled smoke. After we convince her she'd be better off in a residence, a nursing home. There are some cheap ones over in Compton. Like $400 a month, nothing compared to what this property is worth. A nursing home? But Mom... Your mom has already lived, Robert. She's had her time. She had her happy marriage with your dad. She raised her son. What about us? Are we going to live our whole lives crammed into tiny apartments, paying endless rent, while she lives alone in this huge house? But she's my mother. And that's exactly why we're not just throwing her on the street. We'll pay for a home. She'll be well cared for. She'll have food, a roof, nurses. Her voice hardened. Robert, this house is worth at least $400,000. $400,000. Do you know what we can do with that money? There was a silence, a long, heavy silence. We could buy that condo in Silver Lake we saw, Robert said finally. His voice no longer sounded hesitant. It sounded excited. The 3-bedroom one overlooking the park. Exactly, and we'd still have money left over to start a business, or to invest. Or for whatever we want. Tiffany threw the cigarette down and crushed it with her foot. Your mom doesn't need this space anymore. We do. We have children. We have a future. She only has a past. And what if she says no? What if she won't sign? Tiffany laughed. A laugh that chilled me to the bone. She won't say no, because by May she'll be so worn down, so tired, so emotionally alone that she'll sign anything just so we don't abandon her. Trust me. I know how these old women work. My grandmother was the same. You just need to break their spirit little by little, and when they don't have the strength to fight anymore, they're yours. You're right. Robert's voice was convinced now. My mom has lived long enough. We deserve this house. Those words. My mom has lived long enough. We deserve this house, coming from my son's mouth, my only son. The baby I carried for 9 months, the child I nursed, the teenager I helped with homework until midnight. The young man I supported when no one else believed in him. My son. Planning to rob me of everything and put me in a cheap nursing home. I felt something break inside my chest, but it wasn't my heart. It was something deeper. It was the last illusion that my family loved me. Let's go to bed, Tiffany said. Tomorrow I have to continue the perfect daughter-in-law act. It's getting hard to pretend I like her. They both laughed. Together. Accomplices. I heard their footsteps approaching the door. I moved quickly, climbing the stairs as quietly as I could. I reached my room just as I heard them enter the house. I got into bed. I closed my eyes. But I didn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep peacefully again for a long time. Because in that conversation, in those horrible minutes hidden in the darkness, the naive Eleanor died, and another one was born. An Eleanor who understood that a mother's love was not enough. That kindness could be a mortal weakness. That my own son was capable of betraying me in the worst way possible. I got out of bed and sat on the edge. My hands were shaking, but my mind was strangely clear. I looked at the photograph of Ernest on my nightstand, the only one I had left. "What do I do, honey?" I whispered. "What would you do if you were here?" And then I remembered something. Something Ernest told me a week before he died. We were in the hospital. He already knew he wasn't getting out of there. "Eleanor, when I'm gone, people are going to come who will want to take advantage of you, of your kindness, of your loneliness, and I need you to promise me something. Don't let them make you a victim. Fight. Even if it's your own blood attacking you, fight." At the time, I didn't understand why he was saying that. I thought it was the morphine talking. But now I understood. Ernest knew. He knew our son better than I wanted to admit. I got up and went to my closet. In the back, behind the boxes where Tiffany had stored my things, there was a small safe. I opened it with the combination only I knew. Inside were the house documents, the deed, the will, everything. And there was also a business card. Arthur Harrison, Esquire Public Notary. Ernest's best friend. The lawyer who had helped us with all our legal paperwork for 30 years. I grabbed the card and held it between my fingers. It was 3:15 in the morning. But it didn't matter. Because in that moment, I made a decision. I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to end up in a cheap nursing home while my son and his wife enjoyed my house. I was not going to let them erase me. I was going to fight. But I wasn't going to fight by yelling. I wasn't going to fight by crying. I wasn't going to make dramatic scenes. I was going to fight in silence. I was going to plan. I was going to wait. And when the perfect moment came, I was going to close the door in their faces, literally and figuratively. I lay down again, this time with a strange sense of calm, because for the first time in 3 months, I was in control. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to find out. Because while Tiffany and Robert slept soundly that night, secure in their perfect plan, I was awake in the darkness, transforming. The weak woman they had known was dying. And in her place, someone new was being born. Someone who was going to show them that underestimating a 68-year-old woman was the worst mistake of their lives. The next morning, I went down to breakfast as usual. I put on my floral robe. I made myself coffee. I warmed up some toast. Tiffany entered the kitchen, yawning, in her expensive silk pajamas that she had bought with my money. "Good morning, Eleanor. Sleep well?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time, I saw what she was, a predator, a woman who had studied my every move, my every weakness, and turned them into weapons. But she didn't know that I could learn too. "Very well, dear. And you?" "Like a log." She poured herself coffee. "Hey, I was thinking, what if we start looking at options for senior living residences? Not for you to move into now, of course. Just to have options, in case you need them someday." There it was, starting to plant the seed. 2 days ago, I would have panicked. I would have asked why. I would have cried. But the Eleanor of yesterday died in the darkness at 2:37 a.m. "You know what, Tiffany? You're right. At my age, you never know. It would be good to be prepared." Her face lit up with surprise and satisfaction. "Really? That's great that you're taking it with such maturity. Most people your age resist these topics." "Well, I'm not most people." I smiled, a small smile. "One has to be practical." When Tiffany went up to shower, I took out my cell phone and dialed the number on the card. Law Office of Mr. Harrison. "Good morning. This is Eleanor Sandoval, widow of Cortez. I need to schedule an urgent appointment with Mr. Harrison, but at his office, not my home. And please, today if possible. One moment, ma'am. A pause. Mr. Harrison can see you at 4 in the afternoon. Perfect. I'll be there. I hung up just as Robert entered the kitchen. Good morning, Mom. Who were you talking to? The doctor. They were reminding me I have an appointment for my routine exams. I lied, with such naturalness that I surprised myself. Oh, good. Do you want me to go with you? No, son. I know you have to work. I can go alone. At 3 in the afternoon, I left the house. I took an Uber to Mr. Harrison's office in Beverly Hills. The secretary showed me in immediately. The attorney stood up from his desk when he saw me. He was 70 years old, his hair completely white, and he had those eyes that had seen it all. Mrs. Eleanor, he gave me a sincere hug. It's been too long. Ernest would be happy to know you finally sought me out. Finally? He pointed to a chair and sat across from me. Ernest asked me to look after you when he was gone. He made me promise that if you ever needed legal help, I would be there. It's been 5 years, and this is the first time you've called. He paused. So tell me, what's going on? And I told him everything, absolutely everything. The changes in the house, the china being sold, the $12,000 from the fake surgery, and finally, the conversation I heard on the patio. The attorney took notes. His face showed no surprise, just a professional sadness. Do you have proof of the conversation? No, I didn't record it, but I know what I heard. I understand. He put down his pen. Mrs. Eleanor, what your son and daughter-in-law are planning has a name. Aggravated financial elder abuse. It's a crime. But we need concrete evidence. How do I get that evidence? He leaned back in his chair. You need a recording, a conversation where their plan is clear, and you need to document everything, the items they've sold without your permission, the money they've swindled from you, everything. I have bank receipts for the $12,000 and photos of the china before they sold it. Excellent, that's a start. Now, about the house. He took out a folder and began to explain legal options. Trusts, living wills, deeds with legal safeguards. What I recommend is creating an irrevocable trust. The house remains in your name under legal protection. You can live there as long as you want. And you can designate beneficiaries who only receive the property under specific conditions that you set. Like what? Like the beneficiaries can only receive the house when they reach a certain age, or that they can never sell it, or that if you are put into a nursing home without your consent, the trust is voided and the house passes to someone else. A spark of hope ignited in my chest. And my son couldn't do anything? Absolutely nothing. Once the trust is established, not even a judge can modify it without your explicit consent. How long does it take? If you authorize me, I can have the documents ready in a week, but I need you to bring me the original deed. I have it at home, in a safe. Perfect. And one more thing, Mrs. Eleanor. He leaned forward. I need you to act normal. Don't raise any suspicions. Keep being the same Eleanor they know, because if they suspect you're planning something, they will accelerate their plan, and that complicates things for us. I nodded. I can do that. I know you can. Ernest always told me you were much stronger than you looked. You just never had to prove it. I left the office with a folder full of documents and, for the first time in months, with something I had forgotten existed: hope. But I also left with a mission. I needed that recording. That night, while we were eating dinner, I acted perfectly normal. I smiled. I served the food. I asked about everyone's day. Tiffany looked at me with approval. You seem happy today. Did something good happen? Just that the doctor said I'm in very good health for my age. I still have years ahead of me. I saw her smile freeze for a fraction of a second. Years ahead wasn't part of her plan. That's great, Eleanor. That's great. The next day I went to visit Connie, my neighbor. Connie, I need your help. Anything, Eleanor. What do you need? I need to learn how to use a recorder, one of those small ones that can be hidden. Connie didn't ask questions. She had known me for 30 years. She knew that if I asked for something like that, it was for a good reason. My grandson gave me one last year because I'm afraid of forgetting things. I've never used it. It's yours. She taught me how to operate it. It was the size of a USB drive. It could be hidden anywhere. And it recorded with impressive clarity. Thank you, my friend. Are you in trouble? I was in trouble. Now I'm in solutions. Over the next week, I went to the attorney's office 3 more times. I brought the deed. I signed documents. I established the trust. And every night, I left the recorder on in different places in the house, in the living room, in the dining room, on the patio. I recorded conversations of Robert and Tiffany talking about speeding up the process, about putting more pressure on the old lady, about how much longer they were going to tolerate living there. And finally, one night, I recorded pure gold. They were in their room. They thought I was already asleep. The recorder was hidden behind a planter in the hallway, right outside their door. Tiffany's voice said clearly and audibly, "It's almost done, honey. In a few more months, we'll convince her to sign the house over to you. She's old, lonely, she needs us. Then we can put her in a cheap nursing home and sell this property. It's worth at least $400,000. Enough for that condo in Silver Lake we want." And Robert replied, "You're right. My mom has lived long enough. We deserve this house." It was almost identical to the conversation I had heard weeks ago. But now I had it recorded, dated, timed, with their unmistakable voices. The next day, I took the recording to Mr. Harrison. He listened to the whole thing, twice. Then he nodded. "This is enough, more than enough. What's next?" "Now we wait. Your trust is finalized. The documents are registered. Legally, your house is protected. But I want us to have a moment of maximum impact, a moment where they show their true nature in front of witnesses." "How?" "Provoke them. Do something that forces them to show their true colors. And when they do, I'll be there." I thought about it for 2 days. What could I do that would force them to reveal their plan? And then it occurred to me. On March 14th, during dinner, I said casually, "Robert, Tiffany, I've been thinking. You're right. At my age, maintaining this house is a lot of work. Maybe I should consider moving into a residence, and you could have the property." Tiffany's eyes lit up like Christmas trees. "Really, Eleanor? Are you serious?" "Completely. In fact, I saw some very nice residences. There's one in Pasadena that looks beautiful." Robert took my hand. "Mom, that's a very mature decision. I'm proud of you. I just need you to help me with the paperwork. We have to transfer the deed to the house. Mr. Harrison can help us. Should we call him?" "Yes," Tiffany almost shouted with excitement. "Call him tomorrow." "Actually, I already spoke with him. He can come on Monday, March 15th at 10 a.m. "Perfect," Robert said. "We'll be here." That night, I heard their celebrations from my room. Champagne, laughter, plans. And I, in my bed, smiled in the darkness, because they thought they had won. They didn't know the real game was just beginning. Monday, March 15th, dawned sunny. Tiffany got up early, getting dressed as if she were going to a wedding. Robert put on a suit. They were both electric with excitement. But what they didn't know was that I had changed the locks on Sunday night, and that Mr. Harrison wasn't coming to transfer the house to them. He was coming to show them they had messed with the wrong person. On Sunday night, March 14th, after everyone had gone to sleep, I did something I never thought I would do. I called an emergency locksmith. "Can you come now?" I asked in a low voice from my room. "Ma'am, it's 11 o'clock at night. I'll pay triple, but it has to be now, and you have to be quiet." He arrived at 11:30, a man in his 40s with his toolbox. I explained the situation in whispers. I need you to change all the locks in the house. The front door, the back door, the garage door, all of them. Your family doesn't have keys? That's precisely why I'm changing them." He looked at me with those eyes that had seen it all and nodded. "I understand, ma'am. It's not the first time I've been called for something like this." He worked for 2 hours. The sound of his tools was minimal, but every noise made my heart pound. I was afraid Robert or Tiffany would wake up, but they didn't. At 1:30 in the morning, the locksmith finished. He handed me 4 sets of new keys. "All set, ma'am. These are the only keys that exist. The old ones won't work anymore." I paid him $450 in cash, money I had withdrawn from the bank during the week without anyone knowing. "Thank you, and please, if anyone asks, I was never here." He winked at me. "Take care, ma'am, and whatever you're planning, I wish you luck." When he left, I sat in the dark living room. My house. With new locks that only I could open. It was a symbol, an act of resistance. I called Mr. Harrison. "It's done. Perfect. I will arrive tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Before they wake up, you'll let me in the back door, as we agreed, and I'll stay inside until the right moment. And what if this goes wrong?" "It won't go wrong, Mrs. Eleanor. Trust me, and trust yourself. Tomorrow, you get your life back." I slept for 3 hours that night, but not from fear, from anticipation. Monday morning arrived. Robert and Tiffany woke up early, excited. Tiffany put on a wine-colored dress, heels, perfect makeup. She looked like she was going to sign $1 million contract, which in her mind, she was. "Good morning, Eleanor." She hugged me with a false enthusiasm I could now see with total clarity. "What an important day. I'm so happy you're making this decision. It's the best for everyone." "Yes, dear, the best for everyone." Robert came down in his gray suit, the one he wore for weddings and important events. "Mom, have you had breakfast? Want me to make something special?" "No, son. I already ate something light. Nerves, you know." "It's normal to be nervous, but you'll see, everything will work out." He took my hands. "You'll be in a beautiful place, with people your age, with round-the-clock medical care, and we'll come to visit you often, I promise." Lies. All lies. But now I could identify them as if they had a bright label on them. "I know, honey. I trust you." At 9 in the morning, Tiffany started to get anxious. "What time did he say he was arriving?" "At 10. "Oh, still a while." She sat down, stood up, walked to the window, checked her phone. "I'm so nervous." "Nervous about what?" I asked with perfect innocence. "About the whole process. It's a big step for you." At 9:30, the doorbell rang. Tiffany practically jumped off the sofa. "He's early. Great. I'll get it." But when she got to the door and turned the knob, it didn't open. "Eleanor, the door's locked." "Oh, yes. I locked the deadbolt last night. I'll get it." I walked over slowly. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't Mr. Harrison. It was a neighbor selling bagels. "It's not him. It's just Mrs. Peterson." "Aren't you going to open it?" "No, I've already had breakfast. Thanks." Tiffany looked at me strangely, but said nothing. At 10 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang again. This time it was the attorney, but he was accompanied by a younger man with a briefcase, and Robert and Tiffany were also coming from inside, practically running to the door. "Eleanor, open it! They're here!" But I didn't move. "Eleanor, what are you doing? Open the door!" In a moment. In a moment? They're ringing the doorbell! Robert went to the door and tried to open it. He turned the knob. Nothing. He tried his key. It didn't work. "Mom, my key isn't working." "Oh, that's right. I forgot to tell you. I changed the locks last night." Absolute silence. "What?" Tiffany stared at me, her eyes wide. "Why would you change the locks?" "For security. At my age, you never know." The doorbell kept ringing, insistently now. "Eleanor, open the damn door," Tiffany screamed. "Don't talk to me like that, Tiffany. Open the door." Robert tried to calm himself. "Mom, please. The attorney is outside. We're going to sign the papers. Remember?" "Yes, I remember perfectly." And then, I didn't open the door. I let them ring, and ring, and ring. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Tiffany started to lose her composure. "What are you doing? Have you gone crazy?" Robert dialed his cell phone, probably trying to call the attorney to apologize. 15 minutes later, the ringing stopped. Tiffany's face was red with fury. "We missed the appointment. The attorney left. Are you happy?" "Calm down, Tiffany. Everything is under control." "Under control? You ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything. In fact," I looked at my watch, "everything is going according to plan." "What plan?" Robert looked at me, confused. At that moment, I heard the back door open. The footsteps I knew. Dress shoes on the kitchen tiles. Robert and Tiffany spun around. And there was Mr. Harrison, walking in from the hallway in his impeccable suit and leather briefcase. "Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay." The looks on Robert and Tiffany's faces were priceless. Confusion, shock, dawning fear. How did you get in?" Tiffany stammered. "Through the back door. Mrs. Eleanor gave me access a few minutes ago." Robert looked at me. "Mom, what is going on?" "Sit down," I said, with a calm I didn't know I possessed. "It's time for us to talk. For real. No lies." "No lies?" Tiffany let out a nervous laugh. "We haven't lied to you." "Oh, really?" I took my small recorder out of my sweater pocket. "Then explain this." I pressed play. Tiffany's voice filled the living room. "It's almost done, honey. In a few more months, we'll convince her to sign the house over to you. She's old, lonely, she needs us. Then we can put her in a cheap nursing home and sell this property. It's worth at least $400,000. Tiffany's face went white as paper. And then Robert's voice, "You're right. My mom has lived long enough. We deserve this house." Robert collapsed onto the sofa, literally. His legs wouldn't hold him. "Mom, can you explain that to me, son?" My voice wasn't shaking. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't shaking. "Can you explain to me how I deserve to be in a cheap nursing home while you live in my house?" Tiffany regained her composure with impressive speed. She was a survivor, a fighter. But this time, she was fighting a losing battle. "That recording is illegal. You can't use it," Mr. Harrison intervened in his professional voice. "Actually, ma'am, in California, it is legal to record a conversation in a private residence when the owner of the property believes there is intent to commit fraud or abuse, and this recording is perfectly admissible in court." "There's no fraud," Tiffany said, raising her voice. "We take care of her. We keep her company. This house would be empty and sad without us." "Take care of me?" I laughed. A bitter laugh. "Is selling my china without permission taking care of me? Is throwing out my late husband's record collection taking care of me? Is swindling $12,000 from me with a fake illness taking care of me?" Robert covered his face with his hands. "Mom, please." "Please what, Robert? Please forget that my only son, the child I gave everything to, planned to throw me out like trash in a nursing home while he took everything your father and I built?" Tears began to roll down my cheeks. But they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of liberation. "For 3 months, you made me feel like I was crazy, that I was selfish, that I was a bitter old woman who couldn't let go of the past. You made me doubt myself to the point where I believed you were right." Tiffany tried to get closer. "Eleanor, we can fix this." "Don't touch me." I took a step back. "Don't you ever touch me again. Don't you ever call me Eleanor like we're family, because family doesn't destroy. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't plan to put their own blood in a cheap nursing home to take their house." Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase. "I believe it's time to deliver the official documents." He took out a thick folder and handed it to Robert, who took it with trembling hands. "What is this?" "Read. Take your time." Robert opened the folder. Tiffany moved closer to read over his shoulder, and I saw the exact moment they understood, the moment their perfect plan fell apart. But what those papers contained wasn't just a legal blow. It was the end of a game they never should have started. And what I was about to tell them was going to change their lives forever. Robert read the first page, then the second. His eyes moved faster and faster with growing panic. Tiffany snatched the papers from his hands. This can't be real." "It is completely real," Mr. Harrison said with that professional calm he had perfected over a 40-year career. "Certified by a public notary, filed with the county recorder's office on March 10th of this year, completely legal and irrevocable." "Irrevocable?" Tiffany looked up. "What does irrevocable mean?" "It means it can't be changed," I answered. "It means this house is no longer just in my name. It is protected in a trust that I control. And you cannot touch it." Robert let the papers fall to the floor. His face had gone from white to green. "Mom, what did you do?" "What I should have done from the beginning. Protect myself. From you." The attorney continued in a firm voice. "The property located at 328 Jacaranda Drive, Westwood, is placed in an irrevocable trust in the name of Mrs. Eleanor Letitia Sandoval, widow of Cortez. She retains a life estate, meaning she can live here until her death. The beneficiaries of the trust are her grandchildren, Valerie and James, who will receive the property when they turn 25, with the express condition that they can never sell it. It must remain in the family." "That's unfair," Tiffany shouted. "Robert is her son. He should inherit." "Robert lost that right when he planned to rob me." "We weren't going to rob you. We were going to take care of you in a residence." I pulled another paper from my pocket. I had printed it the night before. "You mean the St. Joseph's nursing home in Compton? The one that costs $400 a month and has 1-star reviews online? Where the complaints talk about rotten food, abuse, and medical negligence?" Tiffany opened her mouth, closed it. She had no answer. "I did my research, Tiffany. I researched everything. I know exactly what kind of place you planned to send me while you lived in Silver Lake." Robert finally found his voice. It sounded broken, desperate. "Mom, please, we're family. We can fix this. I was just scared. About the money, about the future. Tiffany was pressuring me, and I—" "Now you're blaming your wife?" I interrupted him. "Very brave of you, Robert. Very brave." Tiffany exploded. "This was his idea. He's the one who said we deserved the house. He's the one who researched the cheap nursing homes. I just went along with his plan." And there it was, the mutual betrayal, destroying each other right in front of me. "I don't care whose idea it was," I said with a coldness that surprised me. "You both planned it. You both lied to me. You both stole from me. You are both equally guilty." Mr. Harrison took out more documents. "Now, let's move on to the matter of financial restitution. Mrs. Tiffany, you obtained $12,000 under false pretenses, specifically by lying about a serious illness. That constitutes fraud. Mrs. Eleanor has 2 options. Proceed legally with a lawsuit for fraud, or you return the full amount within 30 days. "I don't have $12,000, Tiffany shrieked. "I already spent it." "Then we will have to proceed legally. Fraud can result in prison time of 6 months to 5 years, according to the state penal code." Tiffany turned to Robert. "Say something. Do something. She's your mother." But Robert was paralyzed, in complete shock. Mr. Harrison continued, relentless. "Furthermore, there is the matter of the unauthorized sale of private property. The porcelain china had an estimated value of $4,500. It was sold without the owner's consent. That is aggravated theft." "She told me I could sell it," Tiffany lied desperately. I have witnesses who say otherwise, and I have photographs of the china with their original dates, proving it was Mrs. Eleanor's property for 15 years. Tiffany began to pace like a caged animal. This is a nightmare. A damn nightmare. No, I said firmly. This is justice. The attorney closed his briefcase with a definitive snap. Mrs. Eleanor, do you wish to proceed with the lawsuits, or do you prefer to give them the option of voluntary restitution? I looked at Robert. My son. My only son. The child I had held in my arms. The teenager I had comforted when his first love left him. The man I had supported in every decision. And I saw what he really was. A coward. A manipulator. A thief. I want them to leave. Mom, Robert stood up. Please don't do this. You have 48 hours to get out of this house. You can take your clothes, your electronics, your personal items, nothing else. Everything else stays here. And where are we going to live? Tiffany asked in a hysterical voice. We have children. You should have thought of that before you planned to destroy me. I felt the tears well up, but didn't let them fall. You have family, friends, a car, jobs. You'll find something, just like you found a way to lie to me for 3 months. Eleanor, please. Don't call me that. You are not my daughter-in-law anymore, and he... I pointed to Robert. He is not my son anymore. Robert fell to his knees, literally. He knelt in front of me, his hands clasped. Mom, forgive me, please. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I was desperate. Tiffany was pressuring me, and I wasn't thinking. I didn't think about the consequences. But I love you. You're my mother. You always will be. If you loved me, Robert, you wouldn't have planned to put me in a nursing home like I was trash. If you loved me, you would have defended your father's memory instead of letting her throw out everything he and I built. I can change. We can change. Give me a chance. I gave you your chance. I gave you 3 months of chances. Every time you threw something of mine out, every time you lied, every time you made me feel guilty for existing. Those were chances, and you wasted every single one. I turned to the attorney. About the $12,000, I'm giving them 30 days to return it. If not, I'll proceed legally. Tiffany let out a cry of frustration and ran up the stairs. Robert stayed kneeling, crying like a child. Mom, please. Get up, Robert. You're not a child anymore. You're a 43-year-old man. It's time you acted like one. He got up slowly. His eyes were red, swollen. And the kids? Valerie and James? Are you never going to see them again? That question hurt me, deeply. I love them, and that's why the house was put in a trust for them. But I'm not going to let you use them as emotional hostages. Mr. Harrison touched my shoulder gently. Mrs. Eleanor, if you need a moment... No, I'm fine. I took a deep breath. Robert, you have until Wednesday, March 17th at 6 p.m. to vacate. If you don't do so voluntarily, the attorney will proceed with a legal eviction. And believe me, you don't want it to come to that. Robert nodded weakly. He dragged his feet up the stairs. The attorney and I remained in the living room. The silence was thick, heavy. Are you sure about this, Mrs. Eleanor? Do you think Ernest would be proud of me? The attorney smiled sadly. Ernest would be more than proud. He told me once, if anything happens to me, Eleanor will need time to find her strength, but when she finds it, she'll be unstoppable. He was right. The tears finally fell. But they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of liberation. Thank you for helping me. It was an honor, Mrs. Eleanor. That night, lying in my bed, I heard the movement upstairs. Boxes, suitcases, crying, arguing. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. It wasn't a happy peace. It was a painful, sad, bittersweet peace. But it was peace. Because for the first time in 3 months, I had taken control of my own life. I looked at the photograph of Ernest on my nightstand. I did it, honey. I fought, like you asked me to. And I swear, in that moment, I felt his presence. Like an invisible hug, like a whisper saying, "I'm proud of you, Eleanor. I always was." The next day, Connie came to visit. She brought me fresh coffee and a pastry. "How do you feel?" "Like I've survived a war." "You did survive, my friend, and you won." "It doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like loss. Because you love your son, and that's never going to change." She took my hand. "But sometimes loving means letting go. It means setting boundaries. It means saying, 'I love you, but I will not let you destroy me.'" She was right. On Tuesday, Valerie came down to the kitchen, alone. Her eyes were red from crying. "Grandma, can I talk to you?" "Of course, my angel. Sit down." She sat, and for a long moment she said nothing, just stared at her hands. "I knew," she whispered finally. "What did you know, sweetheart?" "I knew what my parents were planning. I heard them talking. I saw how they treated your things, and I didn't say anything." The tears started to fall. "Forgive me, Grandma. I should have told you. I should have defended you. But I was afraid my parents would get mad at me." I hugged her tightly. "You are not to blame, Valerie. You're a child. It's not your responsibility to fix the mistakes of adults." "But I feel so bad." "I know. I do too. But I want you to know something." I held her face so she would look at me. "This house is going to be yours and your brother's someday. And when that happens, I want you to remember, dignity is worth more than any property. Respect is worth more than any inheritance. And true love never destroys." Valerie hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. "I love you, Grandma, so much. And I love you, my angel, always." On Wednesday, March 17th, at 5 in the afternoon, a moving truck parked in front of the house. Robert and Tiffany loaded their things in silence. The children were sad, confused. James hugged me before getting in the car. "Are we not going to see you anymore, Grandma?" "Of course you'll see me. Whenever you want to visit, you just have to call. This is your house as much as it is mine." At 10 till 6, Robert approached. He had an envelope in his hand. "It's $3,000. It's all I could get together. The rest, I'll pay you back little by little. I swear, Mom." I took the envelope. "You have 30 days to complete the $12,000. Not one day more." "I know." He looked down. "Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what we did was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. I really am." "I know, Robert. But being sorry doesn't erase the damage. Being sorry doesn't bring back the memories you destroyed. Being sorry doesn't erase the words you said." "I know." His voice broke. Will you ever be able to forgive me?" I looked him in the eye. My son, my traitor. "I don't know. Maybe. With time. A lot of time. But for now, I need you to go. I need to heal. And I can't do that with you here." He nodded. A tear rolled down his cheek. "Goodbye, Mom." "Goodbye, Robert." He got in the car. Tiffany didn't even look at me. She peeled out with a screech of tires, and they were gone. I stood in the doorway of my house, watching the car disappear around the corner. Connie appeared beside me. "Are you okay?" "No, but I'm going to be." That night, I ate dinner alone in my dining room. But it wasn't a sad dinner. I made myself some mac and cheese, my mother's recipe. I put on music, Ernest's oldies. The ones I had downloaded to my phone because Tiffany had thrown out the originals. And as I ate, I looked at my house. The walls were still gray. But I could repaint them. The curtains were still missing, but I could sew new ones. The memories had been destroyed, but I could create new ones, because that's what strong women do. We don't give up. We don't break. We rebuild. Epilogue. 3 months later, it was June. The jacaranda trees on my street were in bloom, filling the air with that purple color Ernest loved so much. I had repainted the walls, peach again. I had sewn new curtains with embroidered flowers. I had put photographs of Ernest all over the house. And something more. I had started to live. I took painting classes at the local cultural center. I met other women my age, women with similar stories, women who had also survived family betrayals. We became friends. We supported each other. We reminded each other that we were more than mothers, more than wives, more than caretakers. We were ourselves. One afternoon in June, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Grandma? It was Valerie. My angel, how are you? Okay, well, not so okay. Mom and Dad, they got divorced. My heart stopped. What? Mom left. She said she didn't want to be with Dad anymore, that he had betrayed her, that it was all his fault. She left with another man, someone she met at the gym. Her voice broke. And we're living in a horrible apartment in South Central LA with Dad. It's tiny, dark. It smells bad. Oh, my love. But I'm not calling to ask you to take us back. I know we can't come back. I just wanted to hear your voice and to tell you that you were right about everything. Valerie, Mom never loved us, did she? She just wanted the money, the house, and Dad. Dad was so stupid, so weak. She cried. I miss you, Grandma, so much. I miss you too, my angel, every day. Can I come visit you? Someday? You can come whenever you want. This was always your house. Thank you, Grandma. I love you. And I love you, my love, always. I hung up and stared at the phone for a long time. Tiffany was gone. Like a snake, she had found another victim, another plan, another opportunity, and Robert was paying the consequences of his decisions. I didn't feel joy, but I didn't feel guilt either. I felt acceptance. Sometimes life teaches us in the hardest way, and sometimes people have to lose everything to understand the value of what they had. That night, sitting on my patio under the stars, drinking chamomile tea, I reflected on everything that had happened. I had lost my son, at least temporarily. But I had gained something more valuable, myself, because I learned that love without respect isn't love, it's slavery. I learned that true family doesn't tear you down, it builds you up. I learned that at 68, you still have the right to defend your dignity. And I learned that it's never too late to say, enough. Because true wealth isn't in what you own. It's in what you refuse to let them take from you. Your dignity, your peace, your right to live without fear in your own home. And that is priceless. And so my story ends. A story I never thought I'd live. A story that broke my heart but also gave me strength I never knew I had. If this story touched your soul, if it made you reflect on your own boundaries, your own family, your own dignity, let me know in the comments. Tell me, where are you watching this story? What country or city are you joining me from? I'd love to know that these words reached your heart, no matter where you are. And if you know someone who is going through something similar, share this story. Because sometimes, knowing we're not alone is what gives us the courage to fight. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more life stories, stories of overcoming, of women who refused to be victims. Because at the end of the day, we all deserve to live with dignity. We all deserve to be treated with respect. And we all deserve to close the doors that hurt us, even if they are the doors of our own family. Thank you for joining me until the end. See you in the next story. With affection, Eleanor.